afternoon, early afternoon. Another video before I yet head in for another 9 hours of catching shoplifters and internal theft. Oh, joy, joy, joy. Although I did get some good news last night. I get to finish one of the battles I started. Right now I can't tell you. Eventually I will, but some of you can probably deduce it. That's a clue in more than one way. But nevertheless, this video is about INFJs, how we're often described as alien. Different, so different that it's like we're from another planet. But let's get more specific. In fiction, there is a race of aliens that kind of best describes an INFJ. So if we were to extrapolate in, say, 200-300 years in the future into this fictional world of Star Trek of all places, what alien species is based on INFJs? And part of the reason I draw this conclusion is not only because of what this alien race is known for, but also the most famous character of this race, actually she's a hybrid, is not only, not only an example of this race being INFJ, but this particular character, I actually looked it up, because that's like a cool thing now is popular TV shows what character or which personality type. Well, this character is an INFJ, and it's fitting, it's a female because the majority of INFJs are female. And I am talking about the Betazoids, most famously represented by Deanna Troy in The Next Generation of Star Trek. It's also fitting because her job on board the Enterprise D is the ship's counselor. As INFJs know, we are all seen as natural counselors, natural therapists, and even fictional characters that are therapists are often INFJ. Probably one of the most prominent would be in the TV show Frasier. Frasier's younger brother Niles, who's a Union, studied the work of Carl Jung, therapist, is an INFJ, and also demisexual, is represented by his 8-year infatuation with Daphne, an ENFP of all things, and how he was, completely okay with a lack of sex life with his wife, who it's implied he married for the money and status, and how he was so fixated on Daphne and was too afraid to make the first move, as INFJs are known for. But back to the topic at hand. So why are the Betazoids INFJs? Well, they're known for two things: telepathy and empaths. They can feel the emotions of others, and they're very intuitive. They know when something's wrong. They don't know how to explain it, but they just know they're right. Pretty accurate representation of introverted intuition. You know something's wrong, you know something's up. You can't explain it to yourself, so you don't know how to explain it to somebody else, but nevertheless, you know you're right. So throughout The Next Generation, Deanna Troy, being an empath, she's only half Betazoid, she didn't have telepathic powers, except for limitedly with her mother, as I recall, but she can feel the emotions of others and uses that not only to the advantage of helping her crewmates through tough times, understanding their situations by feeling their pain, but also through understanding enemies' motivations and trying to de-escalate situations and bring people, together throughout. So it is interesting. Yes, if you were to create an alien race of INFJs, we would be Betazoids, and even Betazoid society, which is matriarchal, is pretty indicative of INFJs as well. And there does seem to be this overlying very spiritualist nature to it as well, which INFJs again tend to be very spiritual, not very warlike, except when absolutely necessary. I would say the one missing link to Betazoids and INFJs is the INFJ rage. I don't recall ever seeing, although TNG was many years ago. I watched it as a boy, and I occasionally see an episode here and there, but I don't recall Deanna Troy ever becoming angry. And it is interesting too how throughout the depiction of TNG, the Betazoids were introduced to, the vast majority of them are female, and there's the occasional male. And like I said, that represents the INFJ community pretty accurately as well too. The counselor thing is by far the biggest point. It's like, an INFJ is the ship's counselor. Gee, there's a stretch. The INFJ is not the captain, because INFJs will take leadership when needed, but we don't get off on like, I am the boss, salute me. We're very much against protocol. And it's the other thing with Deanna Troy. She was quite known throughout the series to challenge authority and challenge protocol, particularly with Riker, who was the second in command, also later became her husband. But she would often challenge, Starfleet protocol in interest of doing what she believed was right, which is also, and she said that's what Betazoids do. Well, that's very INFJ, to do what's right, damn the consequences, and the hell with tradition and the way it's always been done. Betazoids and INFJs don't do things for the sake of tradition. Deanna even would mock Betazoid tradition. Her mother, who was a recurring character, as I recall, had some fancy title on the planet, and Deanna would make, because her mother, though a Betazoid, wasn't an INFJ herself, but the species is based on INFJs, but Deanna was both. So she would mock these traditions as ceremonial. It was some kind of royalty, and there was a chalice involved, and I recall her saying it was nothing more than a clay pot with mold in it. So very INFJ to not give a damn about protocol and tradition, and simply seek resolution of conflict, progress society, understand people's pain, and get to the truth of the matter, and not give a damn about who did what years ago or who was related to who, of course, because that's another big INFJ point. INFJs aren't big on hereditary stuff. It's passed down, like, well, my father held this title and now it's mine. Nepotism much? So, yeah, things of that nature. So it is interesting, I thought, since we're always considered aliens as INFJs, that what fictional alien species most closely represents us. So where is the INFJ's home planet? It's Beta Z, which is, from what I recall, like a very Mediterranean-like planet. Sounds a lot like my ancestral home here in Ortona. But nevertheless, I hope it was entertaining. And as you all know, INFJs, though being the rarest, we are overrepresented in fiction, always have been. We do tend to inspire people in fiction, of course, because in real life we struggle to make the first move and appear very unapproachable, and people usually don't bother because we require deep conversation for trust and to open up, and most people just want surface level conversation, conformity, and groupthink. Bleh. So, yeah. Art imitates life, but life rarely imitates art.